Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to part two of this video series on mentoring. With me again is Anouk de Blieck as our resident expert. Anouk, welcome back. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Nice to be here, Stu. I hope you're well as well.
Yeah, all good, actually, all good. I'm conscious that when we last talked about mentoring, we talked about why it was important, also the difference between coaching and mentoring. But this week, we're going to focus much more on when mentoring should be used, and also how do you match sort of mentors and mentees as well. So Anouk, when would you advise someone to use a mentor?
You know, when do you need a mentor is when you think that you need some help, and you want to do that in an environment that is trustworthy, where you can, you know, have someone as a sounding board. And we said last time, right? You know, a mentor is someone that is a sounding board, but gives you a bit of a push as well as you need to. So I think it's when you use it, I think it depends on yourself. So I think that's the first thing that I think you need to do. What is that you're trying to do? What are you trying to learn? What insights you like to get? Is it a sounding board? Is it building a skill? Is it getting exposure to something that you haven't been here? So I think to make it most effective, I think it starts with you. Where do you need help at that point? Align to your personal and your professional goals. And then when you think about it, you know, what that could look like, as I said, it can be industry expertise. It can be functional for us HR. Is it more on the remuneration side you want to get insights on? Do you want to get insights on global HR? You know, or as I said, is it as a muscle you want to build, or is there something in your life, right, that is happening that you need some assistance on? You know, because we've all gone through COVID and we've all got through different experiences. So I think it's normal that we're all encountering times where we need some help, and I think that's what a mentor can provide. But it depends on you, you know, what that help should look like, you know, based upon what you need.
Yeah, and I suppose on that note, in terms of examples, is there been a time where you've used a mentor, and if you don't mind sort of telling us a little bit about when you potentially used a mentor yourself as well?
Yeah, I've used mentors throughout my career, and I still use them today. You know, I don't think you know, you stop learning, right? You want to create the best version of yourself. But I think we all need to realize, as I think I said in my first interview, we all have superpowers, but we're not super people, right? So I have used, you know, I have used mentors in the past to help me, you know, dealing with more senior people and getting more confidence, you know, around leadership teams. It might be a surprise, but I used to be very shy and not always.
Never. I can't believe that, Nick.
but you know, I kind of really, you know, use role models that I kind of felt were people that were really impactful. How did they approach it, right? So I've used them. I've used mentors to make career choices, right? When you're at a crossroad in your career, you at a certain point need to make a decision, and how do you make that decision, and how do you get some objective insights? But at the same time, I've also had situations where I was going through some tough times. I was, you know, dealing with perhaps a leader that was challenging, or an environment that was challenging, and I felt I couldn't be my best. And so from a well-being perspective, I've asked guidance to people around how would they address these situations. And then in the spirit of building a new skill, as I think I mentioned last time, you know, social media was something I was really afraid of a couple of years ago, right? I was afraid about how do I use it? How do I make sure I kind of use it in the best possible way? And I had a younger person mentoring me around how to build that skill and get confidence in social media and use it in a different way. So, and now as I'm kind of a non-executive director, I think it's this notion about how do you get guidance and counseling from senior, you know, I would say professionals that have done board work for a long time. So I think it depends on where you are in stage in your career. What do you need? And that's where you then hone in on that moment, right?
Yeah. And how do you match sort of mentors and mentees? How would you go about sort of doing that process?
Yeah, I think there is a couple of things that are important. I think from a mentee perspective, I think it's really important the mentee, as I said, understands what they want to learn, what do they want to focus on at that point in their
Yeah.
career, right? And that can be different. That can be something related to personal life, that can be professional, can be whatever. So I think really understanding from a mentee perspective what that is, I think is important. Then I think from a mentor perspective is, as I said, you need to make sure that when you bring a mentee and a mentor together, there needs to be a fit, right? There needs to be a connection. There needs to be an exchange that comes, because I think the best mentor relationships are those that are a win-win, right? You'll learn from each other, and you create that chemistry as well in that regard. So I think the mentor needs to have that right level of expertise. If it is, from the industry or I would say the skill building or the functional expertise. But I think the mentor also needs to be someone that wants to give back, right? And that wants to be able that create that right environment. So I think that, I think it's important to find that right common ground, right? Where they can work together on. And you don't use the same mentor for every event, right? I think I've used in my career multiple mentors because they provided something different of what I needed. But ideally, you have a mentor that can provide you that holistic view, that has that experience, that has that seasoning. But most importantly, is someone that can create the right environment of trust and confidence. Because when you have that relationship and magic happens, then I think, there's no boundaries, right? It is open. It is kind of there to set the scene, to make the most of your personal asset, right? I think, as we talked about before. So I think it's the chemistry, it's I would say the expertise, but it's also the willingness, I think, from both sides to make most out of this relationship.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really like your analogy though of what you went through in terms of the social media stuff.
Yeah,
I like that because it's an area of, I suppose, weakness from your side where you wanted to increase development and exposure. So on that, Anouk, in terms of mentoring, like how do you prepare for sort of a mentor? How do you get the most out of sort of a mentoring relationship?
I always use that analogy of Alice in Wonderland, right? Where she's lost and she sees the cat and she asked for the road, right? And the cat said, "Where are you going?" And she said, "I don't know." Then every way is the right way, the cat says. So this Alice in Wonderland is for me always a kind of an anchor, because it kind of reinforces the need to know what you want, right? So if you are going to, as an individual, invest in yourself, as we said, invest in your asset, which is you, and create the best version of yourself, you need to really get some insight, right, where you're going. You need to have some insights around what are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to be in 5 years from now? How do you see your ultimate goal? How do you want to be your best self from a personal perspective and professional perspective, and have that holistic approach? So I think the first thing that you do is you need to self-reflect a bit, is okay, how do I want to use a mentor, and what is this mentor going to do for me? And as I said, on this journey, it's a journey. It's not a sprint or a marathon. So you might have some challenges you will dealing in the shorter term or the mid-longer term. You said, I want to address, but I think it's first of all important to ask yourself these questions, right? Is why do you do what you do? What are your strengths? What are some of the areas that you want to work on? What is holding you back currently to be your best self, right? How do you want to kind of maximize that value? And so I think these are things that, as a mentee, some homework is required, and some self-reflection is required. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a youngster or you're a senior person as myself. We all need to do from time to time that self-reflection, because otherwise we're going in the direction, and when we turn back, we kind of might wonder, why are we here, right? What have we missed? So I think use it a bit as a compass, to kind of make these personal goals a reality. But I think it starts with that self-reflection to know what do you need at this particular time. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I really like that sort of analogy of self-reflection in terms of what it is you're trying to get out of it, like what you're trying to achieve, etc. Thank you so much for your time, Anouk, and I look forward to chatting to you again next week. Again, if anyone has any questions and they'd like to sort of hear more, feel free to contact me on se@elliotscotthr.com. Thanks ever so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.